Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo here with Sam Monson. It is February 25th as we record, which means it is NFL Combine Week. And Sam, Combine Week for us is a little bit earlier than most because we go down and meet with all of our NFL team clients. That's all 32. So the teams get there a little bit earlier. They'll be there as early as Monday. At PFF, we'll have meetings all week with the teams, and then the players start to trickle in on Thursday, I believe it is, and then they'll start working out Friday through Monday. So we've reached Underwear Olympics week.
Wow. Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, by the time that's the that's the crazy thing about Combine Week is that it's almost like two different weeks, right? The teams and the businesses and the guys sort of showing off their wares and the things they could do to sell to teams and all this kind of thing. All that happens and is almost packed up and gone by the time anybody rolls around to do workouts. Like that happens later in the week, almost on a completely independent timeline. And when those guys start taking place, the video guys, the backroom staff of a lot of teams have already bailed. They've gone home, and you're only left with the personnel guys watching the workouts that are left. It's kind of fascinating dynamic of the whole thing. There's the combine that everybody sees on TV, but then there's this whole back end week that happens before the sort of combine proper, where all the business is done and all these guys kind of communicate and kind of deal with the next year's worth of business.
That's where we've historically pitched PFF products. That's where we've met with teams and went from having one team to all 32. We're going to try to bring you guys some behind-the-scenes some looks at what is happening, some of the business that is done and what's going on behind the scenes at the NFL Combine. So we're excited about that, bringing the whole video team down there. You're going to be in charge of that, Sam, and really trying to give the fans a look at what's happening there. I want to touch on some big NFL news, though.
Okay.
Last week, we started the last podcast with me announcing that I did not get the Bengals defensive coordinator job.
You didn't.
And
despite the pitch.
I thought it was a good pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Renner was here to console, shoulder to cry on, someone to lean on in our trying times. But as I said, it was a good experience, to at least be a part of that process, to at least be considered, and you use that going forward. Mm-hmm. However, someone from PFF did get an NFL job.
Yeah.
Just a few days ago, announced just a few days ago, which, by the way, why did we not break this news?
We were told not to.
We were?
Right.
We should have asked permission because we had this days before Schefter.
Right.
I mean, days.
Yeah.
I even know the college job that he turned down as well, as do you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He turned down a college job.
We have information that Schefter doesn't have.
Can we break that? Are we allowed to break that? Zach turned down a college job to go get that Rams interview. But that was it. Zac Robinson, senior analyst here at PFF, now the assistant quarterback coach with the Los Angeles Rams. That was announced this weekend by Adam Schefter.
Yeah.
Pretty cool for Zach. Not us. We did not break it.
Schefter.
We didn't break it.
Schefter announced it, even though we knew.
So, let's discuss what the Rams are getting with Zach in his quick history at PFF. 2 years he spent here. Did a fantastic job. Year one for him was kind of like learning the PFF system and the process, which is what everybody has to do. We've had other former coaches and former players come in. Year one, and I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but they almost have to learn, not relearn how to watch football, but learn how to watch football through our eyes because we do things completely differently. He did a good job of learning the system, grading games, and just learning what we do. And then by year 2 and 3, he started to take the quarterback grading, because he's been here 3 years now, actually, started to take the grading and just take it to a whole new level. He watched every single quarterback pass over the last 2 years, had the final eyes on every single NFL grade. So it was great. He was just a huge contributor to the company. And I think when you look at that experience that he had, literally watching every single quarterback throw over the last 2 years and his understanding of the entire NFL now and every quarterback, just invaluable what the Rams are getting.
He's probably the only coach in the NFL that can say that.
Absolutely.
I have watched every single throw in the NFL over the last 2 years. I would be willing to bet pretty good money that there's no other coach in the NFL can come close to saying that. That is and as much as we talked before about the idea that, in scouting, it's important to watch all of it. Not just these 3 games or these games against this opponent. Watch all of it, because you never know what you're missing when you don't see the games that you don't have time for.
Right.
So, there's other quarterback coaches in there. Pat Shermer went into the New York Giants job. First thing he did was watch every single Eli Manning throw. I mean, Zac
already did it.
All right, Zac already did that. Zac has already watched every throw from every other quarterback that took a snap over the past 2 years. That is a huge advantage he has over anybody else.
Yeah, and so the interesting, I don't want to get into too many of the details. We're going to try to get an exclusive interview with Zac. He has been off limits from the media.
What if he big times you?
Oh, he might. I talked to him last night. He's like, look, no interviews. And so I'm going to try to, he's going to be around the office today, so I want to, packing up his stuff, packing up his locker. I'm going to try to steal an interview. We're going to at least try to get him on camera.
He's actually literally going to take his playbook.
He's going to take his play. He's got an old playbook.
Right.
Let's not say which one it is. I don't know if he stole it, but he's got an old playbook sitting on his desk.
He's going to literally take his playbook.
I hope he leaves it. I like that playbook. It's a good playbook.
Yeah.
I like to read it every now and again.
Use that joke all the time.
Yeah, bring your playbook.
Right.
He's going to bring it.
Right, he is. If he takes that with him, the joke disappears.
But from talking to him, rumor has it. Let me just, I'm reminded every week that the NFL kind of pays attention to our stuff.
Yeah.
They listen to our podcast. They see the YouTube channel and stuff like that. So we're kind of reminded of that every week. So just make sure you don't piss anybody off, Sam.
Yeah. I'm the one you want to talk. You want to talk to about that?
Well, there's other people that need that on our sister podcast.
Feels like there's other people that should be directed to more than me.
They need a reminder.
That's all I'm saying.
So the fun part about this is, and I tweeted this a few months ago, is I would be based off what conversations with Zac and knowing what he knows about quarterbacks, I think he's an asset on the defensive side of the ball. So if I had gotten that Bengals defensive coordinator job, I was going to try to bring him onto my staff. Because I think one of the best things he does isn't saying, here's what Jared Goff needs to do. It's here's how I would attack Jared Goff. Here's how I would attack Tom Brady and Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz and all these quarterbacks, right? He's got a really good feel for what you should do defensively against these quarterbacks. I would have him on the defensive staff. And I don't know if every QB guru, so to speak, has that same ability. But if I was an NFL team, that is something I would tap into. I do feel like quarterbacks know how to attack other quarterbacks. I would have some quarterback minds in the defensive meeting room if I was running an NFL team or involved. I think that'd be a different way. Who's Zac would turn me down?
Yeah, he'd have stayed at PFF rather than be your whatever coach.
Well,
special assistant to the defensive coordinator.
No matter which way you slice it, it's all a lateral move. Whether he's going from PFF to assistant QB coach with the Rams or to become one of my assistants with the Bengals, it's a lateral move from PFF. It's maybe a step down.
But now he's on the fast track to be a 2020 head coaching candidate.
He is.
I
sent him my resume.
He's
for that
stepping
reason.
into Zac Taylor's old job. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, so it's a copycat league, right, Sam. And so what happens is when you have a guy named Zac, right, who spells it Z-A-C, you immediately need to replace him with another guy named Zac.
But it's literally the same role, right?
It is,
he's replacing Zac Taylor.
Yep.
So he is...
Well, no, I think Zac Taylor was the quarterback
That's
coach.
what I'm asking, yeah.
Zac Robinson...
He's the assistant
quarterback
so he's not a replacement for that role.
I don't think so. But look, this is his first NFL
But either
job.
way, with proximity to Sean McVay, his path to a head coaching job just got dramatically cut down.
Oh, it's huge. So my goal here is to grab Zac Robinson,
future head coach,
after hours at the Combine, at least sneak a selfie with me, Zac, and McVay. Right?
He's going to the Combine?
Robinson will be at the Combine.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Tomorrow. He's going to drive down Tuesday. Just so you know. If I shouldn't have given that out for the paparazzi.
Yeah.
I don't know when Zac's going. I don't want the paparazzi following him. But he will be in Indianapolis at some point. So sometime after hours, I'm going to try to sneak a selfie when he's over there with his new boss, Sean McVay. So this is all part of the master plan. Plus, I already sent Zac Robinson my resume. Okay. Plus, he used to work for me. He used to work for me in the video department. We did a whole podcast together for 2 years. My podcast partner. This is good. This is my experience with the Bengals, as my defensive coordinator interview.
So the other thing
is going to do me well in 2021.
If you gave him your fancy coverages idea, he could get it in front of Sean McVay.
He could.
Because you've got to ask
Wade
yourself.
Phillips. He could talk to Wade Phillips.
Here's the thing, right? You got to ask yourself, just how much longer does Wade Phillips have in him?
Ooh. So that's a good point.
This is what I'm saying.
Wade's retiring soon. I'm the next guy maybe in L.A.
You get your coverages, your groundbreaking coverages, particularly because you used the Rams play-action game as part of your whole framework for this.
That's right. I know how to attack it.
In front of Sean McVay and say, hey, look, I know there's no vacancies right now, but here's something. Keep me in mind.
You're talking about our secret coverage discussion. That was off air.
Yeah.
On air, people only heard about my 12-man.
2-4-6, your 12-man defense.
Yeah, the 12-man D.
Yeah. Off air, Steve used our tool, PFF Ultimate, that we sell to teams, to essentially redesign coverages. So,
it's in process.
We think of a cover 2, a cover 4, cover 1, whatever. Steve said, no. You're thinking too far in the box. You're trapped inside the box. You need to break out in order to really take coverages to the next level. So what Steve did was say, okay, let's say you're playing the Rams. You say, we know the Rams want to use this play-action game, first down. So he pulled up every throw that the Rams had on first down, play-action this
Use their heat map.
Yeah, pulled it up on a big heat map, a scattergun chart thing that we have in PFL Ultimate, and said, I'm going to use this to let me dictate where my coverage players
Follow
should go.
the heat.
Right.
Is what I like to say.
Follow the heat. I'm not going to assign them to an area based on, the X's and O's drawn up on the chalkboard, because nobody's used a chalkboard in the past 25 years, Steve. No. I'm going to use PFF Ultimate, and I'm going to use the heat to dictate where the player should go.
Drop to the heat.
So you basically reinvented coverages based off the heat map. Now, granted, the first coverage that came up was basically cover 2, but you decided that you would invert it in a couple of weird ways.
Yeah, I would invert it because what you would do is, in this instance, say like the Rams play-action attack never attacks the deep middle. So in cover 2, I would just widen the safeties a little bit and go to the places where the Rams have attacked.
Now, widening the safeties is one thing, but you did something else with the safeties, right?
I would also have them, I would have it would be an inverted 2. Just to mix things up.
In what way?
The corners are playing cover 2. The safeties are flying.
Didn't you move the safeties down and have linebackers dropping up?
I forget. Look, there's 3 different ways to do it. I will, when I'm ready to, when it's finalized, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay. But the safeties were kind of working down into the box a little bit. The corners were playing deep, and the linebackers to the flat. So it was cover 2, but all the assignments were kind of inverted. And it's kind of like it's sprint to the heat.
Yeah. I mean, the important thing is here that you're not resting on your laurels having not got the Bengals job. You are using this as an opportunity to grow.
We're going to change the game.
Some people, they take it as a knockback. They didn't get the job. They get down on themselves. They go in the tank. It doesn't really work out. You straight to the drawing board, and you are reinventing the game. That's how you get successful.
I'm still young. Well, not that young.
No, I wouldn't.
I'm older than
everybody.
Both Zacs.
Yeah.
McVay.
Yeah.
Maybe my time's coming to an end. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm just saying, you're taking it the right way. I'm very proud of you.
No, it's funny. So my concept is crazy.
Yeah.
Because everything in football is like, well, if you do this, we're going to do the opposite. Yeah. And obviously where teams throw the ball,
I'm not going to defend the deep
coverages.
Middle of the field. Yeah. I'm going to say they might take a shot there.
But I would be fascinated if elements of just essentially overcommit to tendencies on defense, which I don't think is, it's not like that's different. I'm sure teams are already doing that to a point, but overcommitting to where the tendencies or like the heat map or, in these situations, I think that would be a viable strategy.
Well, what was fascinating to me about that before you took it off into Crazy Town was the idea that, all right, I'm playing the Rams on first down. What should I be calling? Because like I say, when you pulled up the heat map, basically showed cover 2.
Right. So where my coverage defenders would go to a cover 2 shell.
If you want to know what you should be calling on first down play action against the Rams, let's start with cover 2.
But I think that's because they see so much cover 1, cover 3, so they're attacking the places where the holes are. Because that's the opposite of cover 2.
You at least know what you should be starting with. Right. Now, maybe you don't want to show them cover 2.
No,
it's not to say you need to line up in cover 2 and say, now target us.
No, I would disguise it.
Right, you disguise it. You show cover 1, you roll to 2, whatever. The point is that would get you a head start to know what you should probably end up in. As opposed to essentially, what do we want to do here? cover one. Right? Like that would give you the sort of what you should probably look to roll to and then hope that they don't call something, outside of the box.
And everybody's calling cover one, they're calling cover three on early downs because they want that eighth man in the box to stop the run and all that fun stuff. But we're going to be playing the pass first.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't care that much.
And obviously it's more complicated than that because formations will dictate all this kind of stuff. But it's a good.
I got to teach my guys formation adjustments. That's a whole different level of teaching.
But it's a good starting point with some of this stuff, as opposed to just they dialed up quarters at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe if they'd known this, they wouldn't have done that because they know the tendencies would target that.
The heat map stuff that they do have in Ultimate that all 32 teams have access to is interesting if you dig into it and different ways to use it. Anyway, I think the Rams are getting a good one in Zac. Again, I commend him for taking to the PFF system, helping to make it better. He was a valuable resource that we had in the room here. He also, it wasn't like he was pulled straight out of PFF data collection. I mean, he had been training NFL quarterbacks on the side. He was out in California training a whole bunch of NFL draft prospects. I still haven't heard the whole story on how this came about.
We let him out of the building. That was our mistake.
Yeah.
We should have just kept him locked away like everybody else at PFF in the dungeon.
I don't know if he heard the count. Did we even make a counteroffer?
I don't think so.
And look, listen, I love...
It's a lot of hardball negotiation going on at PFF these days.
Well, listen,
no counteroffer to Zac. It was just like, good luck.
But this might open things up. A lot of our listeners, and I appreciate all of our listeners and our viewers, they stepped in and they said, there we go. There's the money open for Steve.
Yeah.
Right?
We appear
So now Zac's salary's out.
I'm just saying, we appear to be perfectly prepared to let you test the open market.
But that would be a mistake.
Would it?
Wait till the connections I make at the Combine.
Well, you're going to need to have a big Combine.
You watch. I'm going to get more offers on the table.
You are going to need to be networking the hell out of the units in the Combine.
I will
at the moment, it seems like the strategy is to let you test the open market and then come crawling back to a lower offer.
The McVay. Once I have the McVay selfie,
that needs to get on social media.
I'll have a head coaching job. I'll have a head coaching job before Zac.
Also, by the way, what is the height difference between you and McVay?
Large.
He's not a tall man.
No, it's all right. He's already familiar with my work. I know.
Yeah,
he's a big fan.
But I'm just saying, in order to get a selfie, we're gonna need a box.
We'll be sitting.
We're gonna need a box for him or something.
We'll be sitting down.
Or you're gonna need to do that stoop thing you have to do every time you stood next to the TV.
I am not stooping. I am standing. Do not give the secrets of the YouTube channel to our podcast listeners.
You think they haven't worked that out by now?
I am standing.
Barefoot Steve, bent at the knees to keep his head into the shot.
Look, once we get our new studio, that will all be squared away. Until then, we need to make do with.
Is that part of the design specs? We need to be able to put Steve back there and not have him barefoot and stooping.
I sure hope so when we've got the new studio.
You should probably make sure of that because otherwise somebody's going to be out
there. We have a big enough background that I could stand.
Somebody's going to be building a thing and you're going to have to crouch again.
Anyway, it's a great podcast. We're just talking football. Just talking ball, as they say. You have anything else you want to say? What Zac's bringing to the table for the Rams?
Well, like I say, I think it's huge that he's the only coach in the NFL that's able to say he's watched every single throw of every single player over the past 2 seasons in the league. Nobody is better qualified to understand what the league trends are in terms of passing game. Also, not just passing game, but as you said, the defensive side of it as well. He hasn't just seen the passes; he's seen what defenses, what the coverages were they were targeting. So, yeah, I think anyone that's listened to the podcasts or seen the YouTube videos knows that Zac was a smart guy, knows what he's doing, knows what he's watching, which you can't always say about people. I think the Rams have got a really smart guy, and if this Sean McVay wagon continues rumbling, he will legitimately propel himself into head coaching conversations pretty quickly.
Yeah. So like I said, he had 2 offers.
Is that now? That's 2 former PFF staffers on coaching staff
in the NFC West now.
Well, that's true.
They're going head to head. We got Bobby Slowick
versus Zac.
Yeah, Bobby's going to be.
Except Bobby's now offense, right? He got moved.
I don't know if that's public information yet.
Oh, well, it is now.
How about that?
There we go. Scoop.
News?
Take that one, Schefter.
I don't know if that's public information yet, but Bobby Slowick was on the defensive side the last 2 years with San Francisco.
May not be anymore.
May not be anymore, according to sources.
Yeah.
Which may be Bobby himself. And then Zach, public knowledge.
Yeah.
The assistant quarterback coach at the Rams. They're both in the NFC West.
Imagine if we just accidentally scooped Schefter.
That'd be great. That'd be great. I mean, our podcast numbers, millions would turn into 10 millions.
Yeah.
Tens of millions.
We should definitely put that in the title somewhere.
Yeah.
Scoop Schefter.
With a coaching scoop. Sam Monson.
There you go.
So, yeah, good stuff. What else? Anything else about Combine Week? We'll do a Combine preview. I'll have Renner on here later in the week. We'll preview the actual workouts and different things like that. Do you want to do it?
I'm just saying.
Look, I want you to be a part of draft content.
Constant embarrassing attitude like I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to the draft. I was sitting there
simply because
grinding running back tape the other day because obviously running backs are the most important position in today's NFL.
That's where we've put you.
Right.
Okay, so Renner and I actually had a pretty good, nuanced running back discussion the other day. So much so that our Instagram, the people running our Instagram channel, Sam, were like, "Hey, we should put this on Instagram."
Okay,
that's how much they liked it.
Well, me and Eric did one a while ago.
The people that work for you. It was a more nuanced running back discussion, not like, "Hey, running backs don't matter, forget it." We're trying to explain to people some of the reasons behind it and why Josh Jacobs, who you watched, was number 41 on our draft board. And the point that I made was, we're going to get pushback from people who are like, "Man, I see him going top 10, you idiots. How is he number 41? And then we're getting pushback from Eric and George who are like, "You idiots, how is he as high as 41? Put him in the 5th round. He should be like number 180 in the draft board." But, we came back to this whole, like, the difference in skill isn't enough to change the difference in production. Essentially what it is when it comes to running backs.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, we've had this discussion. You had it before. Me and Eric had it not long before that. It's been had several times.
Oh, that's it? You don't want to add anything else to it?
No.
So did you see anything out of which running backs did you watch? Here's Sam's Draft Minute, brought to you by...
I don't appreciate the dismissive tone you gave.
Let me hear Sam's Draft Minute on the draft running backs that you watched. Go ahead.
Look, I think Josh Jacobs
Can we get a solo shot on Sam?
Have to move into here.
I'll just get out of the way.
Josh Jacobs was a fantastic running back prospect. I was most impressed by his work as a receiver, which is obviously the most important part of being a running back.
Right.
Is how good he is in the passing game, which is exactly the same as it was for Saquon Barkley a year ago. I didn't realize how much Alabama had lined him up out wide, like split out as a legitimate wide receiver. Not only did they do that, but they actually used him as a receiver. It wasn't just let's run him as a gimmick play, have him jet motion, all that kind of stuff. He was used as a wideout, and he had wideout skills. There were plays in there where he's catching contested catches. He's using strong hands, keeping hold of the ball. He's making wide receiver adjustments deep down the field. Jacobs looked really legit. Now, I really like David Montgomery from Iowa State from the tape you made me watch in the summer heading into the season. I still like him, but he's not the same kind of receiver. Like, he'll be a useful guy out of the backfield,
right?
But he doesn't have that wide receiver skill set that Josh Jacobs has. But he still has that freaky ability to just move at the last second and avoid those critical big hits. I really like Montgomery. I like Singletary, Devin Singletary from FAU,
Florida Atlantic.
Way more than I did in the summer, actually, from that tape. I thought he got a lot better this season. Seems to have more quickness about his game, more immediate burst than he did this time a year ago. So I like Singletary as well. I think this, actually, the more I looked at this class, the more I think this is a really good running back class and potentially even better than last year's that I was pretty high on. So, yeah, that's my minute. In a time where running backs could never be less important, this is a really good time to get a running back.
We put you on the most important positions to evaluate. Who do you want to do next? Which positions?
All I want
to look at next.
I just don't want to be stuck with a bunch of 6'2" corners that you keep making me watch.
Well, you need to start watching the entire draft class. We have a lot of draft content coming up that you're a part of.
I'm not watching any crappy 6'2" corners. I've had enough of them. I can't deal with it anymore.
There's some good ones.
Well, find them for me. Present them to me, because I'm not
Justin Lane, Greedy
not watching
Williams.
the terrible ones again in order to find them. Last year, you made me watch some absolute abominations of football players claiming that they were good because they were 6'2". And I just, I'm not doing it anymore.
We had to put on the list the guys that the NFL might like. So we have to have a take on them.
Who was the guy, was it Florida State had one who was one of the worst corners I've ever seen, ended up getting drafted in like the 6th round? Who was that?
Oh, yeah, McFadden?
Yeah. The people had in like the 1st round. It was terrible.
There was a point where he was a potential first rounder.
Right. So I'm just saying, don't bring those people to me anymore. I'm not doing it. I'm not wading through his tape again. You're going to have to find legitimate first-round players.
You don't get to decide.
Present them to me, and I will then watch them.
You will watch the draft class as you're supposed to.
No, I'm not watching players like that.
You don't pick and choose.
Can't deal with it.
You don't get to pick and choose.
Well, I just have.
People think we hate each other.
Yeah. What I hate is terrible 6'2" corners.
Can't understand why. Why are you so anti-height?
I'm not anti-height. I'm anti-useless height.
Do you have any NFL news we can discuss?
No.
Kyler Murray at 206 pounds?
Yeah, there's no way that's true.
Why not?
What? Have you seen what a 206-pound guy looks like at 5'9"?
Well, this was like when Vernon Hargreaves showed up to the combine with like a completely different body type. He went from like a skinny guy to quads that were 4 times as big as they were during the season, and he was like 5'11", 215. It's like, that is not the guy that played football in Florida.
Right. A 206-pound guy at 5'9", let's call him 5'10", is big.
Water weight. You get a lot of water weight.
Right, but he wouldn't be that now. He would be that like the day of the combine.
So that's one of my favorite combine stories. I'm going to name drop a long snapper right now.
Long snapper?
Yeah. Zach Diossi.
Okay.
Long snapper for the Giants.
Uh-huh.
My workout partner back in 2007.
Yeah.
And he knew that the Patriots, the local New England Patriots, were kind of on him. The Giants, and that was when those teams had those, we need our linebackers to be at least 250.
Yeah.
And I think he was weighing in at like 247. He was chugging water before the weigh-in just to get to 250 because the Giants and the Patriots and some other teams had this cutoff where they wanted guys 250 plus. He weighed in at 250 because of it and got drafted by the Giants in the 4th round as a linebacker and then didn't play one snap at linebacker. He's been a long snapper ever since. Made some money. All because of 3 pounds of water weight. So, Kyler Murray, drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yes. I think that there's this degree to which that makes sense at the combine. I'm just saying, given his body shape at the moment, if he is under 5'10", there's no way he plays at 206 or anything like it.
What was Cousins a couple years ago? I didn't realize how slight he is.
Kirk?
Yeah. I mean, somebody said he was playing at like 195 or 202. Okay, let's discuss this. QB durability.
202 was his listed weight.
Yeah, and he might have been under that a couple years ago.
And he's 6'3".
Yeah. QB durability. Everybody's like, oh, you need a big, strong guy that could take hits.
Uh-huh.
QB durability has more to do with playing style than size. We see Cam Newton get hurt all the time. Carson Wentz the last 2 years, Big Ben, Andrew Luck are the perfect prototype. Joe Flacco, prototypical, perfectly sized quarterbacks to handle the NFL game. It's about playing style and taking hits.
But also, just being large doesn't necessarily mean that you're better equipped to actually take the hit.
No, it doesn't.
Like, just having more things to get hit doesn't make those things inherently stronger.
No, I don't think so either. So then, out of the slight guys who have gotten hurt, like RG3 and Michael Vick, it's because they were terrible at not taking hits. Right. They didn't know how to slide.
Vick played in a suicidal manner every play.
But guys like Russell Wilson, who does have this like...
I mean, he's pretty stocky.
He's stocky, right? But he has a knack for not getting hit. Colin Kaepernick had a knack. You got it.
Also pretty big. I mean,
but he had a knack. These guys didn't take big hits.
Right.
They knew... I'm talking about guys that ran
but
or
he's
run.
A pretty big guy.
I understand that. But I'm saying their playing style allows them to not take big hits because Kaepernick had this knack to know how fast he needed to run out of bounds. Wilson has the same idea. They know how to avoid hits. Vic, RG3, they don't. Lamar Jackson's not good at avoiding hits. I do worry about his durability. Again, not because he's slight, but because he just gets in there like a running back.
But he is, and he hasn't broken down yet.
Not yet.
And he's been running to the ground for his first half year.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just saying, like,
over time, we'll see what happens.
I have yet to see evidence that suggests simply being larger makes you inherently more durable.
Well, that was like Jared Goff when he came out, weighed 215, and it's like, oh, he's frail.
Right.
But Carson Wentz, big, strapping young man.
245 or whatever.
And Wentz has missed the end of the last 2 seasons.
And had a career injury history in college. Like, he was the guy with the injury history.
Right.
Had more of an injury history in the NFL. Had a better offensive line protecting him in college than Goff, whose line was trying to kill him, a cow. And Goff is the guy that's fine, and Wentz is made of glass.
So there you go.
Yeah. So just because, anyway, all these things are like the idea that, yes, Kyler Murray's size is legitimately unprecedented. There is, if he comes in at under 5'10", there will be no quarterback with which to compare him. Like Doug Flutie is the closest, and Doug Flutie was like 5'10" or whatever, right? So it's completely uncharted territory. But because it's uncharted territory, one, we've conclusively dismissed the idea that being short leads to batted passes. Doesn't. Never has, never will. Yes, it's hard to see over offensive linemen, but you don't get more batted passes at the line if you're short than if you're tall. Last year, the two quarterbacks that led, Joe Flacco led the NFL in batted passes, right? Joe Flacco, 6'6".
I don't think anybody cares about the batted passes.
They do. Kirk Cousins led the NFL in batted pass rate, right? And basically, if you put it on a piece of paper, no matter what level you're looking at, there's no correlation at all between size and batted passes. So one, dismissed.
Yep.
Two, you're small, you're going to get hurt. You're too small. Can't play at that level, you're going to get hurt. Again, there doesn't appear to be a correlation. Big guys get hurt just as much as small guys. It's way more about how often are you exposing yourself to stupid hits. I mean, what you need to ask yourself is your quarterback, regardless of his size, going to get hit during the course of the season? And the answer to every single quarterback is yes, to which any given hit can end your quarterback season if you're unlucky. Derek Carr was hit less frequently than any quarterback in the league a couple of years ago. The one sack that his left tackle gave up that year broke his ankle and derailed his career. Now, unless you're telling me that your offensive line can completely protect your quarterback, he will not be hit for the entirety of this game or the entirety of this season, then how big he is doesn't matter because any one of those hits can end his year.
I mean, so it's like, look at Jimmy Garoppolo. The reason why he got hit, or why he ended his career, is because
ended his career?
Let's try this again.
That's breaking news. Now we're scooping Schefter.
The reason why Jimmy G's season ended last year, got that now?
Yeah.
Is because instead of choosing to just run out of bounds, he chose to take an extra hit. The reason why he hurt his shoulder when he was in New England is because he was rolling to his left, and where I think the smart quarterbacks just say, okay, I'm going to throw this one away. You time it up. Like, I'm going to throw this one away before I get hit. He kind of tried to wind up, make a play down the field, and took the hit that smashed him on his shoulder. The same thing happened to Matt Moore with the Dolphins that same year. It's that split-second decision where throw it away quickly, save myself, versus try to make a play knowing that I'm essentially giving the defense a free shot where he's going to slam me on my shoulder or collarbone. So you see players do that. It's kind of their fault at that point.
Yeah.
So Garoppolo not running out. Garoppolo's done this twice now. And I don't think this has anything to do with his frame. I think it has to do with his decision-making within the game to take a hit or to make a play.
Well, also, this one, it wasn't even the hit that did it.
Well, it was
the cut.
But he still should have just ran right out of bounds.
I agree. But the point is, he planted, tried to make a cut upfield, and his knee exploded. Now, he's 6'2", 225, and his knee just exploded for no reason. Like, again, he can't say, well, if only he'd been bigger, like his knee would have maintained structural integrity when he tried to cut upfield.
And he made the same play, essentially, that Drew Bledsoe did when he got hurt. Bledsoe had a perfect frame.
The point is, any given hit can break a quarterback. Any given cut in the ground can make your knee just implode. This is a game where people get hurt. And at the moment, I've yet to see any evidence of being a small quarterback will make you get hurt more often than being a big quarterback. So if you're looking at Kyler Murray and saying, well, he's too small to play at the next level, that's fine. I said this before, that there are people that are going to say, he's too small for me. I don't want to take that risk. To which I would answer, okay, that's a legitimate opinion, but you need to be able to articulate why. And if your answer is he's going to get passes batted at the line or he's going to get hurt more, I would ask you to prove it because so far honestly, there's no evidence that says that.
I think it's more field vision than anything. I think people have a bigger issue with
and
field
that's fine.
Vision.
But again, you simply need to articulate what your problem is and then prove to me on tape that it's a problem because it isn't so far.
So to be fair, Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, your classic 6-foot quarterbacks that have had success. You got to throw Baker in there in a minute, but Brees and Wilson do have this unique style that mitigates their height a little bit, right? Brees is always like, it's trying to stand as tall as possible, trying to see over everybody. He's also just at this special level of anticipation and accuracy and all that stuff, right? That offsets a lot of those things. So he has to mitigate his height a little bit. Wilson, while he can play from the pocket, still does most of his damage outside the numbers, and he does a ton of damage outside the pocket. Right, so that's his way of kind of dealing with that. He doesn't have the best vision in the middle of the field.
I think Wilson is going to be a great comp for Kyler Murray with that style, because Baker got tagged last season for being an undersized quarterback. Baker's 6'1", 215. So you're talking about 3-4 inches in height difference between Baker and Kyler Murray, and whatever that ends up being, a chunk of extra size, right? Girth. So Baker was tagged to being undersized, and he's a completely different size human being from Kyler Murray. So the same is true with Russell Wilson, obviously, right? Wilson's what, 5'10", but he's 215, so he's a hell of a lot bigger, whatever. My point is that Kyler Murray is probably going to have to play in a similar way to Russell Wilson in terms of manufacturing himself some better vision. So yeah, if you're 5'9", you're not going to see over a guy that's 6'5" standing in your face. And if you have a bad offensive line, they're going to be standing a lot closer to your face than they would be if they were a good offensive line. But the way Russell Wilson bails from clean pockets a lot of times, or just simply moves around behind the line of scrimmage, opens him up a bunch of vision lanes that other quarterbacks don't have. Like a 6'5" guy working from the pocket can at times have a much narrower field of vision because the thing's closing in around him, and everyone in front of him is 6'5" as well. He's now working from a very tight, enclosed space with not much vision. Russell Wilson does a little dance, bails out to the flat, and suddenly he's got a wide open field in front of him. Now, okay, he's closed off some options that he would have had otherwise because now he's on one side of the field or whatever. But we've seen from Kyler Murray's tape that he can do a lot of those things. And whereas some of these quarterbacks that have that freaky level of athleticism will start to move, and the second they start to move, they're running. They're going to pick it up with their legs, and they're not interested. He does a lot of that Russell Wilson stuff where he starts moving around, which just spaces out everybody. It makes them start to run around to chase him and opens up holes. But then he takes advantage of those holes. He slides into the open space and delivers a pass. I think you'll see Kyler Murray at the next level play a lot like Russell Wilson in terms of sometimes getting himself into trouble, but more often than not, essentially buying himself vision that other quarterbacks can't.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. I mean, I think that there's something to that. There was a discussion on Twitter. All right, let's wrap up with this. I put some QB tiers out there on Twitter from the last 2 years. There was a discussion. George asked me about Kyler Murray. He wanted Kyler to be a little bit higher. Somebody suggested we do a podcast about it, which I'm all for. We could do that down in Indy, have a little discussion where we are. Did you see my tiers?
Yeah.
I
corrected them for you.
Okay. Well, let's discuss where I had them first, and then I'll let you correct them.
Okay.
This is based on prospects over the last 2 years. This is also based on people saying that Dwayne Haskins is the best over the last 2 years.
Also, by the way, this is PFF's interpretation of the prospects, right? So a lot of people are not a lot of people. Some people are kind of criticizing us for this revisionist history of saying Baker was this amazing prospect because most people didn't think he was going number one overall until it happened.
Right.
Whereas PFF said he should be number one overall dating back to October.
So this is from a prospect standpoint, not like what we know now. But
PFF's interpretation of a prospect is different to everybody else's. So we had Baker as a number one prospect by a distance. Mm-hmm. Most people didn't.
All right. So here's what I had. I don't have the tweet pulled up right now, but I'm sure we'll pull it up for this. Baker Mayfield in a tier of his own.
Yep.
Number one. Sam Darnold and Kyler Murray I put in the same tier 2 together. Tier 3, I put Josh Rosen and Dwayne Haskins. And then tier 4, who did I lump in? Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Mason Rudolph, Drew Lock. And is that it? And maybe there's a couple guys from this class. But either way, that was essentially how I separated them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Baker, tier number 1, you agree?
Yes.
Head and shoulders above everyone else.
Yes.
And last year at this point, because like when you put a draft board together, I think we had Baker number 1, we had Darnold 3 or something like that. But it's because it's just this linear board that doesn't capture how much stronger we felt about Baker versus Darnold. If I had the number 2 pick in the draft, I would pick Darnold because I think there was enough to build around with him. I'm saying Darnold and Kyler in the same bucket. You're saying you want to move Kyler up, and George wants to move Kyler up.
when I corrected your tweet, I gave you...
I just can't get Twitter to load.
Well, that's unfortunate. I gave you Baker, number 1 overall, or 1 in a tier by himself.
Yep.
But I put Kyler 1.5. I think the difference between Kyler and everybody else is significant and should be recognized. I also think you maintain and have been all along, you're way higher on Darnold than you should be.
I think his strengths are in the right areas to improve, and this is why. He was one of our most accurate quarterbacks up to 20 yards. And I think the deep ball stuff, where he struggled at USC, he struggled last year with the Jets. The deep ball stuff, historically, we've seen as like an unstable type of deal where guys have improved. So part of my Darnold evaluation is banking on some of that improvement down the field, banking on him being really good at the 1 to 20 stuff. Also, the thing that definitely separated Darnold for me versus, say, Rosen was his ability to make plays outside of structure, off-script plays. I thought he was fantastic. If he had to quickly evade pressure, throw on the run, get outside the pocket, Darnold had that fourth quarter magic that he had in college. So for me, it's a little bit of projection, and it's a little bit of maybe overweighing some of the things, the high-end stuff that I saw at USC.
Yeah.
That I definitely thought separated him from Rosen. George's point on Kyler was his rushing ability. I want to get George on the podcast to explain it more, but I'll say this. If we said the same exact thing about Kyler that we said about Lamar last year, which is like build an offense around his rushing ability, create open throws and all that fun stuff, you could do that with Kyler's rushing ability. Like if you built that same offense using his speed in the designed running game, you could build an offense, I think.
Yeah.
And then you look at the two guys as passers, and Kyler's in a whole different league compared to Lamar.
Yeah, and I think he's in a different league compared with Darnold as well. I could maybe get on board with the idea of separating Darnold from the next people as well.
Let me just finish up real quick. Darnold's also the two he played as a redshirt freshman and as a redshirt sophomore.
He's still death with this laptop.
He's still young as a starter. Okay, he's still young as a starter. I was at Elite 11 with both kids, with both Darnold and Kyler Murray. Mm-hmm. Kyler was making some spectacular plays that week as well. So they are the same age. But 1 year of production from Kyler is one thing, as great as it was, that I have more hesitancy with him than someone else. If we had 2 years of 90-plus PFF grade play from Kyler, I'd feel much better about him.
Yeah, I'm just saying, as a passer we've seen, I think he's been better than Darnold. He's been every bit as accurate. He's been spectacular. His grade has been higher. You're right. It is only 1 year, but it's not like that's a negative as much as just a question mark.
Yep.
And you have the rushing ability. So if you were just talking about a statuesque pocket passer, I would say he's probably a better prospect than Darnold. Plus, he has that rushing ability that completely eclipses anything Darnold has to bring to the table as a bonus. So I think you have to separate Kyler Murray. I don't think he should be where Baker is, because Baker is the most accurate quarterback we've ever seen as a college prospect. He was the best quarterback we've ever seen as a college prospect. He didn't have the rushing ability that Kyler does, but he had 3 years of insane grading. Plus, as much as we don't really screw around with the intangibles and that kind of stuff, this idea that he came on as a walk-on twice and won the starting job, and then came into a situation this year where he wasn't supposed to start, won the starting job. Well, now granted, it took a while for them to throw him in there, but he should have been starting. Right, he should have been starting from day one. That there is something to that, which is why I think Baker belongs on the pedestal by himself. But I think the idea that the point I would drive home is that everything we know says that the gap between Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray is way tighter than the gap between Kyler Murray and anybody else.
Well, yeah, I know that's where the numbers are pointing. I'm going to say, though, the stuff that we talked about Baker off the field last year, it's not technically a part of what we do at PFF from a numbers standpoint, but it is a part of the evaluation. And while other people were saying he's got antics that I don't buy in, he's a head case and all that stuff, we're looking at it like, are you kidding me? He is so competitive, and that matters. And here's the thing about all that off-the-field stuff. The PFF take, I think, on all the off-the-field stuff, all the fluff, all the stuff that like the paragraph after paragraph that goes into these scouting reports, ultimately it all shows up on the field, right? So if you're too emotional, or you're a head case, or you're not diving into your playbook, or you drink too much, or whatever it is, ultimately it's going to show up on the field at some point, right? That's where the PFF grade shows up. So if it wasn't a factor in college, and you have exceptional grading and you have exceptional results, give or take, that should carry over. I mean, it's not perfect like that, but everything we saw from Baker as far as his willingness, or his motivation to prove people wrong, all of that stuff was in his favor. My hesitancy with Kyler is everything's been the opposite right now. Committing to football, only 1 year of play, his play before this past year at Oklahoma when he was at A&M was, it was a small sample size, but it wasn't great. You just don't have these, like with Baker, it's just mounds and mounds of evidence building up that he's the best. Kyler, there's just a smaller hill of evidence.
Yeah.
And that is my hesitancy. And that's why I put him and Darnold together. Okay?
But it's not like Darnold had this wealth of
Oh, I understand. I completely understand. I could be overrating a few things in the Darnold analysis. I also love the way he played down the stretch. We'll see what happens. I think there's a lot to build around with Darnold. I think the Jets should be happy for having Sam Darnold. The next tier, though, I put Josh Rosen and Dwayne Haskins. And people are all over Dwayne Haskins this week.
Yeah.
They're loving him. I've seen him compared to Joe Montana. I've seen him called the best prospect over the last 2 years. I'm just not seeing it. Dwayne Haskins is good. I like a lot of what he does in the pocket. He was outstanding from a clean pocket. He was playing with awesome playmakers at Ohio State, who I think absolutely inflated his stats. He maneuvers the pocket really well. I don't think he has the outside of structure magic that some of these other guys do. I think that's what makes him similar to Josh Rosen. If you give these guys a perfect environment, they can succeed. I also think they do things that look... I made this point about Rosen before. He throws the ball. He throws a pretty ball, and when they do it right, him and Haskins, the ball comes out of their hand nice. It looks really great, and I think that gets overrated. I think people overrate aesthetics in the scouting process rather than the how often that we've talked about.
Yeah, I think he also, I mean, obviously this wasn't deliberate, but I think his season shaped up nicely to make him look good in the eyes of, talent evaluators. He finished really strongly. He began strongly, and he buried the bad stuff in the middle where nobody really cares about it.
Yep.
So anybody looking at his tape is going to be like, well, look at this. He finished. Look at the development, because she's kind of burying the stuff in the middle. It doesn't really count.
Yeah.
So I think that helps him. There's a lot to like about him. We've talked before about how one of the most predictive metrics is how you play from a clean pocket, because when you take away all of the noise and the variables, you just isolate, right, you're now in a clean pocket, everything's on rhythm, how good are you? That's what's the most repeatable thing, and therefore it's the most predictable. Haskins in the pocket, from a clean pocket this year, his numbers are fantastic. His pass rating is like 130 or something. Interestingly, Kyler Murray's higher. But that's the kind of number that does stand in Haskins' stead and say, yeah, this guy could be a very good quarterback. I think we're souring because Rosen was such a disaster this year in the worst situation in the NFL. You get this year revision saying, well, he wasn't that good to begin with.
I'm not.
How could you possibly say that Haskins isn't better than this guy?
I'm not trying to be
I'm not saying you are. I'm saying
Rosen. People are. Yeah, people are. Rosen's good. I mean, Rosen's potentially a good player. We said Rosen is Eli Manning-ish, which means the high end is there. So, and then somebody said to me, there was a Darnold supporter who responded to one of my tweets and said, Darnold's a better player. Guarantee he's going to have a better career. And here's the thing about player evaluation. It doesn't mean that Baker every single year for the next 15 years will be the best quarterback, and then it'll be Sam Darnold, and then it'll be Josh Rosen, or whatever your ranking is, right? There might be 2 years out of the next 10 or whatever it is where Sam Darnold has a better grade and better numbers than Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, anybody guaranteeing anything is an idiot.
Well, yeah, of course.
But, look at 2004, right? Those quarterbacks, Eli, Ben Roethlisberger, Rivers, that's an extreme example in that all three of them have some degree of Hall of Fame argument.
Ooh,
some degree.
Yeah, they do.
But you could go through their career. I haven't actually done this exercise, but you could go through their career, and I would imagine all three of them have multiple seasons where you would say that's the best one of the three.
So each one of those had 2011 and 12 where he was probably the best guy.
So if you're casting your mind back, you're like, okay, which was the best quarterback from 2004? Well, which year?
Yeah, so you've got Eli, off the top of my head, 2011 and 12 is outstanding, plus one of those years was a Super Bowl year, plus he has a Super Bowl run in 2007. Outside of that, he's number 3 in that group.
But he's got 2 rings.
Big Ben has, and I would say that half of the remaining years, half the years Rivers was the best quarterback of the trio, and the other half Big Ben was the best quarterback of the trio. And then you look back and you're like, all right, that's 3 very good quarterbacks over time. 2 very good quarterbacks over time. And Eli
Hall of Famer
with 2.5 good seasons.
Right, but the point is, if you cast your mind back and you're like, right, which guy would you say is the best quarterback from that class? It depends what year you're talking about.
Yeah, I agree.
At any point in the last, whatever that is, 15 years, one of those guys a different one of those guys could be the best of the 3.
But here's the thing, right? If you ask the Giants right now if they regret essentially trading Phillip Rivers for Eli Manning, they'd say, absolutely not.
Right.
I do not regret it. We got 2 Super Bowls out of it. We got a whole bunch of non-playoff years out of it too, but we got 2 Super Bowls out of it. We're happy. If you had to do the trade over again, though, and you don't have the foresight, but you didn't have the foresight of championships, but you knew that Phillip Rivers would play at his level, Eli Manning would play at his level, you would take your chances with Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
Because he played at a higher level over more time. So essentially, you're playing the odds. The odds don't always work. You know, you can hit on 16 every now and again and hit 21. Sometimes it works. But over time, we think Baker's going to be better over time.
Yeah.
I think Darnold will be better than Rosen over time. We're debating Kyler versus Darnold a little bit in this thing. But I'm looking at, real quick, Rosen versus Haskins. Near identical percentage of negatively graded throws in our system in their last year. So Rosen in 2017, Haskins last year. Negatively graded throws, almost identical on passes thrown beyond the line of scrimmage. Rosen had higher big-time throw percentage, also more higher turnover-worthy play percentage. Haskins was lower in both numbers, so a little bit on the safer end of the spectrum. Haskins' ratio of positively graded throws to negatively graded throws was below Rosen. And they were almost identical in their ratio of big-time throws to turnover-worthy throws. So I'm just throwing some numbers out there that show they've been similar using our play-by-play grading. I think that's a fair tier for the 2.
And if you're going to be concerned about the 1 year of data for Kyler Murray, same thing also applies to Haskins.
To be fair, it's also
600-odd snaps. Yeah.
It's also the same thing we had to apply to Mitch Trubisky.
Right.
And there was a lot to like about Trubisky coming out. I think, again, as much as Bears fans think that we hated him this year, it was just he didn't play as well as the numbers showed. That's it. I don't think you'd give up on Trubisky at this point.
But that's one of those things, I'm not saying you're doing this, but that's one of those things that people tend to apply selectively. So if I don't like a prospect, there's only 1 year of grading here, or there's only 1 year of tape. We've got to be concerned about this guy. If I love a quarterback, there's only 1 year. He could develop.
Right. You flip it the other way. I remember I said I tried to use both for and against Trubisky in the past.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying it needs to be universally applied here. Either it's a problem or it's not. And if it's a problem for Kyler, it's a problem for Haskins. And if it isn't a problem for Haskins, it's not a problem for Kyler.
And I really want to write something on the site about this. I just need to gather my thoughts on it. But the idea that players just go like this, the idea that players just always get better, right? It just isn't true. It just doesn't happen, right? So it's not this linear, you're just going to get better every year. Imagine how good you're going to be in year 6. Yeah. And then in year 10. It's just, you don't always just get better.
I mean, especially for quarterbacks where their job is so dependent on other things. Did your scheme change? Did your offensive line get better or worse? Did your receivers get better or worse? Like, you might be the same guy 1 year to the next, and you're going to look a lot worse.
And so here's the thing about that. The top 8 quarterbacks or so in the NFL, right? Brady, Breeze, Peyton when he was healthy and around, Aaron Rodgers, I'd say Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck the last couple of years, right? These, who am I? Big Ben, Rivers probably. These guys that are pretty consistent in the top 8 year over year can handle those differences way better than others.
Yeah.
The problem that we're talking about right now is that Darnold, Rosen, Haskins, maybe Kyler, all of these guys are most likely in the next tier. I would say Baker and Mahomes now have a chance to be in that top 8 tier, right? Where they can transcend issues around them more than others. The issue with the rest of these guys now is they're going to be in that 8 to 25 ranking of quarterbacks where they're not completely interchangeable, but the results in any given year could have Mitch Trubisky looking great, or it could have Andy Dalton looking great, or Ryan Tannehill could put up good numbers, or the reverse can be true without a massive change in skill set or player or how they actually perform.
Yeah, and that's why those guys...
Today's NFL.
Right, and it's not... I think people just need to understand that that's the dynamic at work, right? It's not that these guys suck and you can't win with them. It's just that in order for us to win a Super Bowl with this guy, we need to strike gold. We need to have a season where his receiving weapons are great, his supporting cast is fantastic, the offensive line is good enough. And this is, we're not going to spend 20 minutes talking about this, but this is the Kirk Cousins argument, right? It's like, okay, you've paid a lot of money for Kirk Cousins. Don't immediately throw the baby out with the bathwater. You have a quarterback that's capable of winning a Super Bowl, but in order for that to happen, because he's in this mid-tier of quarterbacks, you need the offensive line to be good. You need the coaching to be good. You need those receivers to all be good, and it all needs to come together in 1 year. Otherwise, it's not happening.
And just to explain what that bottom tier that I had, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, I put Mason Rudolph in there, and who was Drew Lock.
Drew Lock.
Missing somebody? Either way, Lamar, we said, yeah, there's a path to success. It's got to be run game heavy. Accuracy's an issue. Josh Allen, accuracy's an issue. You'll get some high-end plays, but throw for throw, he's just not there yet. Both Lamar and Josh Allen were exactly what we said coming out in year one. You know, again, there might be some years where they're a little bit better than they've been, but, I mean, that's who they are. For the most part, I think Drew Lock has enough consistency issues that he's in that tier. Mason Rudolph looked pretty bad in the preseason. I don't even know if the Steelers like him a whole lot. They didn't have him as the number 2 behind Big Ben.
Yeah.
But I thought, and I had some doubts about Rudolph, but I still thought he was in that tier based off what we saw in the Big 12. I could be completely off on him too.
We always said about him that he was the toughest evaluation of anybody in that class.
But I'm going to steal somebody's comp where they said Matt Schaub. If you look at Matt Schaub's career, statistically was fantastic, but he was in that pristine situation. Right. He had the Kubiak play-action game that elevates quarterback stats. He had that. He ran it extremely well, but also in the Texans in a playoff game, you would never say, okay, Matt, go throw the ball 40 times and win the game for us. He had to be protected as part of the scheme. I could see Mason Rudolph still being that guy, if given the opportunity. So that's where I was on the quarterback tiers. You guys can feel free to disagree. You already disagreed.
I already fixed it for you.
You did. I don't completely disagree with you. We'll see. But it's close. We're at least close. People think we hate us. We're in agreement. Good stuff, man. Good discussion. We'll get George on the podcast later to give his take on why Kyler Murray's maybe in the Baker Mayfield tier or just below it. Wrap it up? That's it, right? All right, guys, keep tabs on us all week. We're going to be at the Combine, behind the scenes, hoping to give you guys just a really good look at what we're doing down there. Of course, free agency is right around the corner. We'll be, tackling a lot more of that in the coming weeks, and Mike Renner and I will be here previewing the on-field Combine action later in the week. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Talk to you Thursday.